Today, I am so excited, Jamie. I'm joined by an icon, someone that I have admired who is making such a major impact in the world. And Jamie Kern Lima is co-founder of It Cosmetics, a company that you sold, I know, to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion, with a B, dollars. She's also a New York Times bestselling author of Worthy and Believe It, as well as host of the #1, this is unbelievable, as we just said, in a sea of podcasts, #1 self-improvement podcast, ranked by Apple, the Jamie Kern Lima Show. This is an incredible podcast. We're going to dig into that. But Jamie, welcome, and thanks for taking a second.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me. And I know I said this before, but just congratulations on just how much of a force for good you are in the world. And it's an honor to be here and join you and just also support you as well. So thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to dive in, right? You've created a great deal of success in your life, founding It Cosmetics, growing it, selling it to L'Oreal, and now launching a New York Times bestselling book and books, and then having the #1 self-improvement podcast on Apple. Jamie, what's your key to creating sustainable success? And how do you create success that is purposeful and fulfilling and meaningful in that pursuit?
Such a powerful question, because I think a lot of us, can drive ourselves so hard and make something happen, and then we end up like, oh wait, did I remember to enjoy it? Or we get in that kind of spiral of like, it's never enough. And so I think the key is like, how do you go after the goals and the dreams that you feel like you're called to do? How do you bring them to fruition and make them actually happen, and then also end up still with a fulfilled life? Because a lot of times, like to your point, those are really hard to all make happen at the same time. And I want to just be super real, and I've never really talked about this before, but I made a lot of mistakes. And actually, as an entrepreneur and as someone building things, there was a number of years in my life where I did 100-hour weeks. When I'd have a big win, I wouldn't even celebrate it. I would just be relieved and be like, what's next? And keep going and going and going. And, I've definitely gone through burnout. And I think the risk of anyone putting themselves in that spot, because, we live in a culture where sometimes people glorify hustling, but
yes.
I think the risk of hustling is actually that you burn yourself out, and you may actually miss out on the calling you have for your life because you're just freaking tired. And so I think that, I've learned that lesson quite a few times, and I've gotten to a place where, for me in my life, I pray, I get still, I meditate, I ask God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? And I try to listen to that answer, and I'm going to get granular for a second. I don't think I've ever talked about this, but as every entrepreneur, every person with dreams and goals on their heart, every person sharing this with us right now who feels like they have a book in them, or they want to, coach and help other people rise higher, whatever it is that's on their heart. I think that in the pursuit of the things that we're called to do, the thing I think has been most key, that I'm really, and Molly, I try to do this every single day, I try to get still, pray, and I try to separate what's my ambition from actually what's my calling. And ambition's beautiful, but I try to make sure I only leverage it when it's attached to things I feel like I'm supposed to do on this earth. And I think in the past, where I got burnt out so easily, and maybe this will speak to someone listening and sharing this with us right now, is I know I'm great at ambition, and I know I can make things happen. I work really, really hard. Never as hard as when I was a Denny's waitress, but still, I work really, really, really hard. And I can make things happen. But just because you can, should you? And I think there's a big difference in going, okay, the world will celebrate me if I launch another billion-dollar business, or I know that I know I'm ambitious enough and want to do that, but is that what I'm really called to do right now? And getting still, and for some people it might be meditation, for me it's prayer. Everyone has a different process with their belief system, but I try to really get still and go, okay, but what am I created for? How am I here to truly serve? And then attach my ambition to those things and trust it. And I feel like we all kind of know what it feels like to be in alignment with our assignment or in flow. And for me, that's like the way to not get burnt out. And so, with launching my most recent book, Worthy, I didn't feel like I wrote it. I felt like it was like this divine download. And with my show, with the launch of the podcast, same thing. And so I think this is, for anybody listening, I think that's really the key to making what you want happen and not burning out in the process, is really knowing, is that truly what I'm here to do, and feeling in alignment with it. And when you know that, then the hard days and the setbacks and the failure and the rejections and the lack of momentum, it's easier to take and be more resilient with when you know, okay, that happened, but also this is my calling, which means it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I mean, I am erupting with God winks right now, I always call them, in service of the fact that I have a book coming out in a couple weeks called Dynamic Drive, which is about alignment in the pursuit of what we're most uniquely positioned to do and who we are most uniquely positioned to serve in the world, to your point, anchored in what our core values are, what our beliefs are, what is our faith, and an alignment with that is such an important thing. And I think, Jamie, it feels like in life, and you sort of touched on this for a minute, we can get so hard in pursuit of an achievement. And what's at risk in that pursuit if it isn't in alignment? And you sort of talked about that, right? We can compromise, can't we? What matters most? We can find ourselves burned out, right? How did you, Jamie, when you realigned, it sounds like, when you were feeling that at some level, this not acknowledgement of the effort, how did you realign? How did you reset your drive, if you will, with alignment with what you were called to do?
Yeah, it is a daily habit, because for anyone who's ever been in that, cycle of I've got to achieve enough to feel enough, or achievement equals love, or, both men and women deal with this a lot. I'm only, significant, and I'm only all the things if I achieve all these things, right? We live in a society where the first thing people say is, oh, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
And we're almost trained from a young age that we've got to have a great answer, that then we get a great response and all the things. And if someone says well, what do you do? Oh, I live in alignment. They'll just look at us right? Because
cool.
I think that's a thing. But for me, it's a daily check on, is what I'm doing really in my gut and my intuition when I pray, is it really what I'm supposed to be doing? And by the way, I ask that even with the people around me. I pray every day God brings the right people into my life, has the wrong ones leave. We all kind of know what that whisper's like. Just to maybe put this in perspective for anyone listening, we all kind of know what that whisper feels like when you walk in a room and maybe it's new people, or maybe it's people and you just don't feel you feel like something's not quite right, or maybe they're not quite your people, or you don't quite feel like you love them, or are loved and belong for who you truly are, or you don't feel that peace. I think we're able to feel that easily, but then when it comes to our own pursuits and ambitions and all the things, it's so easy to silence all that stuff and just go with what the world tells us we need to do, and what we're rewarded for. And so, for me, I grew up, I was adopted. I have 5 families. My parents worked so hard, 5 families through divorce and adoption. It's a whole story. But my parents who raised me, I wouldn't change a thing. I love them more than I could love human beings, just like my kids. And I wouldn't change a thing. And also, they worked so much and so hard that I kind of learned like, oh, if I achieve the thing, if I win the thing, if I crush the thing, then they'll show up. And, not realizing where that stemmed from, but for most of my life, I was just so ambitious and actually forgot to do the work of going, wait a minute, I love these things I'm pursuing. And also, they will never be enough if you don't also learn to feel worthy as who you are, exactly as you are. And so in parallel to this, and just to speak to anyone who maybe knows they have big dreams on their heart and they're making big moves in their, in their field, and they're launching things into the world they're passionate about, and they're, have all these goals and dreams. I think in parallel, doing the work of building your self-worth, of learning to believe you're truly worthy exactly as you are, it's so important. Doing that, a lot of people fear, well, wait a minute, if I believe I'm enough exactly as I am I going to lose all my ambition? And it's like, no, actually, you become more ambitious because, but in a good way, because when you build your self-worth, right? And let me just take a step back. You cannot out-succeed your level of self-worth. We in life get what we believe we're worthy of. And what I mean by that is if you, deep down inside don't believe you're worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, you'll have career success, but you'll sabotage it at a certain level and hit the ceiling that you believe you're worthy of in your career. You'll be attracted to friends that mistreat you or relationships that don't go well. All the things, because they're a reflection of our level of self-worth. When we raise our self-worth, we raise everything around us. And also when we raise our self-worth and our belief that we're enough exactly as we are, which for me is a lifelong journey. It's why I wrote Worthy. It's, why I'm doing the podcast, the Jamie Kern Lima Show. How do you build your self-worth? But when you do, you become so resilient because you're enough. So you become fearless of going after ambitions. You might fall flat on your face. Something might go wrong, but it doesn't matter because you're enough as you are. And so you continue. I think building self-worth builds ambition. But if you don't build self-worth, what happens is, and a lot of people are in this spot right now, listening to us right now. This was me actually most of my life. I kept achieving and hitting the next level and the next level, or having a big goal and dream, and I'd arrive at it and be like, why do I still feel like something's missing? Why do I feel like it's not enough? And I thought the solution was, I've got to achieve more. I got to go to the next level, the next level. But that's a perpetual cycle to nowhere if you don't just intuitively know and believe you're worthy as you are. And why it's so important to build self-worth in this journey is then as you're achieving, as you're hitting the next level, you're actually able to be fulfilled and enjoy it when you do. You're not in that like, oh, it's still not enough, I still can't enjoy it. You're in that perpetual, and that leads to burnout on top of it. I want to say one more thing because I don't want to miss saying it. Your book coming out. I just want to call this out, okay? Anybody watching this or listening, please go right now, pre-order or order, depending on when you see this, Molly's book. Write a review. But it's so important you pre-order it or order it, and then share it, post about it, and spread the word. This is so important because a lot of times what I learned is that as an author, people, I didn't know this before being an author, your pre-orders and your orders when you launch, they matter so much because then when the book does well, you get more promotion, the retailers carry it. Like if Molly has ever added value to your life, please right now go pre-order and order her book, leave a review, post about it, spread the word. It matters so much. And it's such a big deal. So I just want to call that out and also say congratulations as well.
Thank you for that. Wow, that was incredible. And these are such important things to ensure that we live a life without regret, to ensure that our ladder's leaning up against the right wall, and ensure that it's so interesting, right, Jamie? Sometimes you ask somebody, what are you chasing? And they sort of look at you like, what do you mean? And to your point, I think what we're all chasing is fulfillment, joy, impact, and alignment with what we're called to do. And your book is it is magnificent. New York Times bestseller, Jamie, and as you've gone through, thank you for sharing that relative to pre-orders. You have a poem, Jamie, in there. You're not crazy, you're just first.
Yes.
What's that about, and why did you feel called to share that?
Well, for anyone listening to you and me, watching us right now, if you've ever felt like you're odd or strange or different, or you have to kind of like shapeshift or dim your light to fit in, or people don't quite get you, so often, like, the things that we think are odd or strange or different or quirky or wrong with us are actually the things most right with us. And you know, it hit me after years of feeling. I mentioned I have five families, and I always just felt like a little different. Like I would have these big dreams, and I remember sometimes people would say things to me like, "Well, people who come from places like us, things like that don't happen to us," or "You're crazy." They'd always say, "You're crazy." You're, all the things. And one day, and I go into the story of this in Worthy, but one day it hit me. Literally like a light bulb, like that, so bright it burst, that I'm not crazy, I'm just first. Like I'm the first, and every person listening right now, you are the first. You're the first only ever you that's ever been created. First only. First with your DNA, first with your fingerprints, your tongue print, your unique heartbeat, first with the life experiences you've had, the first ever to experience emotions and art and beauty the way that you do. And so when you are one of the brave ones willing to show up in this life, or in your business, or on your social media, or in the pursuit of your goals and dreams as who you actually are, right? Don't be surprised if not everyone gets it, because there's never been another you before. And similarly, I could go off about this for hours, Molly, in my journey of building a cosmetics, I had this vision like for how things could be done differently in the beauty industry. Hundreds and hundreds of no's for years, including people I just like celebrate and to this day do and respect so much. They're these visionaries and experts in the beauty industry, but none of them thought my idea was going to work. And thank God I didn't listen to that. And instead I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm just first, because I'm the first ever only me, right?
Yes,
first ever only me that's going to do this authentically to me. And by the way, because I didn't do what everyone else was doing, even though I would have got approval at the time, even though I would have got into retail stores easier, because I didn't do what everyone else was doing, I created something that was different, and that became valuable. Then L'Oreal, that owns 40 different brands, like they were able to pay all this money, $1.2 billion cash for my brand, because it complemented the 40 others that they have. It didn't do the same thing they do. And so anyone who needs those words today, if someone else is doubting you, if you're not getting momentum out of the gate, if things aren't going your way, if someone doesn't see your value, like, you're not crazy, you're just first. You're the first only ever you. And remembering that helps you stay, to your point, in alignment with who you're born to be, versus tempted to go, oh, let me show up as my representative, because that's what's gonna, I'm the people pleaser in me wants to do that and fit in the room and fit in the CEO role and fit in the coach role and fit in the author role. It's like, it's tempting to do that, and it's hard in the short term if some people don't get you or don't believe in you. But your power, your superpower, right, is remembering like, oh wow, number one, you can't fake authenticity. Number two, while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. Every time, over time.
So
and when you see a world showing up as their representative to fit in, you wonder why most people don't make it, right? And so just remember, whenever you're doubting you're enough, or someone else is, you're not crazy, you're just first.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Amen on that one, girl. Amen. Your new podcast, the #1 self-improvement podcast on Apple. I mean, congrats. This is, and you've had some amazing guests, Jamie. I mean, Oprah, Robin Roberts. I mean, the list is remarkable, and you just shot out like a cannon, hockey stick growth on this. What, as you have had the opportunity to connect with some incredible people, what's been one of your greatest takeaways from the guests that you've had on so far? Maybe a big learning or lesson to you, and why?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. My intention behind every episode of the Jamie Kern Lima Show podcast is that it sparks revelations in your life and the person, watching or listening in your life, on building your own self-worth and believing you're enough. And I think that, I just had an episode come out with Hoda Kotb from Today's Show, Robin Roberts from Good Morning America, Oprah, Julianne Hough from Dancing with the Stars. When I think about what's in common, right? Ed Milet, so many different incredible people. Can't wait for Molly Fletcher to be on. It's going to be, amazing people. But I think so far the through line has been every single person talks about the power of, whether it's through faith or intuition, the power of learning to trust themselves. The power of hearing their intuition and trusting it, and how for so many of them it took so long. Hoda Kotb just celebrated her 60th birthday, and she talks about how it was just a few years ago, just a couple, I'm talking a handful of years ago in her 50s, that she learned to truly trust herself. And that's impacted her career. She is at the high of her career right now. It's impacted her love life. She's adopted two beautiful girls in her 50s. She says everything great has started after 50 in her life. And a big part of that is just learning to trust yourself, to believe you're enough, and just to take that next step in alignment with who you truly know you're born to be.
That's so amazing. So for people who haven't and don't have Worthy on their desk, on their bedside table, on their bookshelf, get it and subscribe to the #1 self-improvement podcast out there, Jamie Kern Lima Show. It's an incredible show and incredible conversations. Jamie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations on everything, and thank you.